Fantasy.
Hello, welcome to
Hi.
episode 6 of Spoilers Book Club. Nick,
Welcome.
and this is Amanda.
Hi.
We are on episode 2 of 2, covering Jack of Shadows by Roger Zelazny. In the last episode, we ran through chapters 1 through 7, and we're going to finish out going through chapters 7 through 13. And we
Yeah,
have
I'm excited. I like this book.
it really moves along fast. It's a pretty short book, ramped up. When we left the last chapter, Jack had escaped the Lord of Bats, and then he was on his trek out of Darkside and Dayside, stopped by to talk to
And man, is it different.
Morningstar.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but he does talk to Morningstar.
Yeah, I
Which
talked to
is not
Morningstar
too
on his way
different.
out. And then we jump to Dayside, where Jack
Which
has
is very
been
different.
a professor of anthropology for
Yeah.
a number of years.
It's like walking through trash and smoking cigarettes. And like, what? What is happening?
Wearing
What book
dark
is this?
sunglasses.
Yeah, like what? And yeah, and then he goes to a meeting to find he meets with a girl.
Like the chapter starts out too, just mentioning that he feels like something is coming for him. He doesn't say what. We can
Mm-hmm.
kind of guess or infer, but yeah, he ends up going to spend time with girl Claire,
Mm-hmm.
and has some sort of relationship with. But the way she gets described,
It's desperate.
um, well, it kind of shows Jack's character as well, of like how he thinks of her. It's like, yeah, he's kind of a rogue, sort of using her. What was it?
Yeah.
Um,
She seems eager to get married, is what he's.
a good lay, but
Yeah.
too eager to get
Yeah.
married.
It's like, oh, dang. How mean. His only friend. Oh,
No,
yeah.
very a tragic character. Morningstar's his only friend. Uh, I it was
So,
funny. You have the thing that only occurs in fiction,
mm-hmm.
where people are in a bar or restaurant. TV, movies, books. The waitress takes an order, and what do they order? They don't order a Budweiser. They don't order a Guinness. They just say beer.
Beer.
Yeah,
It's
so
like
I find
in
that funny,
beer.
but it's just sort of a thing that happens for fiction, is making it easier than trying to be specific.
Yeah.
That stands
Although
out
I
to
was
me a
like,
little bit.
what time, what year? I was wondering, like, what year is this? Like, it seems so modern.
Well, I think we looked up. It was written in 71,
70s. So it
or
was maybe
copyright in
like
71.
70s. They had computers
There were
and
computers in the
yeah.
70s, but you
But
probably
like that,
you need to be working at a specific
like a
type
whole
of
room
employer
thing,
or
right? Yeah.
at a
Maybe
university.
at a
And
university.
I think
Yeah.
that's why he's
So,
installed himself at a university, so that he could
yeah.
scam them and get access to the
Because
computer. Because
Lasney
he
was
went to the day
with the
side with
printer.
a mission. Yeah,
Yeah.
and he does mention like the computers would take up whole rooms,
Mm-hmm.
sometimes more, and then talking about the tractor fed paper, which
Yeah.
you could probably still find if you really want to. But I remember our first printers
I love
that
those
had
little things.
you strip off the edges
Yeah,
and then fold them and make little
little springs.
paper springs. Yep, that was it.
Anyway, uh, his meeting
The
with
comment from Jenny is like she didn't have time to read
last
it and
half.
just listened to the
Good
audiobook for the
thinking.
last half.
Uh-huh.
So she thought she had the wrong
That's what
book.
I was like. Did I click on the wrong thing? And like, it was just so vastly
Did
different.
I pick up the wrong book?
Like, what? We were
Yeah.
in castles and having candles, and now
I knew it was
It's
coming
outdoor
because I had
space.
seen,
Yeah.
I have read this
Yeah.
a good number of times before. So, but I just gets a great feeling. For some reason, it's just like very
Whoop.
refreshing. It's like, whoop,
Yeah.
he's in a different place. All things
So
are different, but
funny.
he's the same person.
Yeah.
So anyway, we're learning more about Claire, and Claire seems to suspect there's something different about him, and talks about how his eyes adjust,
Yeah. She's like, wait a minute.
dilate more than anybody else.
Mhm.
But she decides that she wants to go back to her place instead of staying at the bar.
Mhm.
And we get there, and it looks like the place has been tossed, like somebody maybe broke it.
Yeah.
And Jack goes
Like
into
papers on the floor.
like
and
a different
drawer
mode.
open. Yeah.
He's like, oh. He gets serious and starts like operating like the dark side professional that he is. It's like checking the lock to see if it's been picked. He's looking for scratches.
He
checking
pulls
things
out a dagger.
There's a little knife
A knife.
that
Yeah, it was a knife. It wasn't dagger.
that Claire
Maybe dagger
hears
was a
him
dark
open,
side.
so
Yeah.
it's like a click. It's probably a folder.
Oh yeah.
But I don't know that she ever saw it, but she usually says like starts confronting him
Oh,
about
yeah. It's like whoa,
you-
whoa.
where'd you get the knife?
Yeah.
It's weird. I'm like, what do you mean? Where'd you get the knife?
Yeah. He's like,
mean,
oh, what
knives-
knife?
Why wouldn't you have knives everywhere?
Just hanging around. Those guys,
I don't know.
dark
Those
siders.
type of, those type of people that don't have knives everywhere. What's wrong with you? Yeah, so they have the whole thing about what knife out of knife. You can check me, you won't find one. And then I guess the whole thing that triggered her being extra suspicious was that he got some books back for her that had been
Yeah,
stolen.
and she's like, also, you were like, he would teach on criminality or something like that.
Yeah, and then all of his dark side, like he's teaching about culture on the
And
dark side.
Yeah, so she's like, I'm pretty sure you're from the dark side.
Yeah.
These are all these points
The dark
proving
sider.
that. And then he's like, wait a minute. Whoa! He pulled it out of the shadow.
You hope it came out of shadow. May have just come from where the sun doesn't shine. But he's gotten these books back for her. And she wasn't supposed to ask questions, but they had blood on them, and now she's asking questions.
Yeah, like, oh, I got these books and they have blood on them. What's your problem? And then he's also like, wait, this is a setup.
Yeah, it calls her on the whole
He's
thing being
like,
staged. Of like,
"You
nobody actually
totally
broke in
did
here. You
this."
did this on your own to see what I would do.
And for some reason, I'm like, is he making her think that, or is she really did stage it? But it does really seem like maybe she did
I
stage
think
it.
she did.
Yeah.
Because she kind of stops
Because
being
she's
worried
very,
about
she's like,
that. I
I'm
think
very
that's on her.
organized. I would never do that.
Yeah.
And then he's like,
Yeah.
yeah.
Just claim somebody's nose was
Just-
broken.
Yeah. Oh,
In the
that
course
nose
of
is
getting the
broken.
books. I suspect it may have been a lot more than a broken nose, or more serious than a broken nose. But that kind of gets left. But he decides to diffuse the situation and goes in for a kiss and more,
And more.
to take care of things.
Just a little unbuttoning, a little continuing on that. Yeah.
And then we're still in the same chapter, but it
Distraction.
switches to Jack is back, or should we call him John or Dr. Shade? 'Cause he does have
sounds like a
he does have
rapper
an
name.
alias.
Dr. Shade.
Dr. Shade. Dr. Shade, Dr. Doom.
Not
who am I
Dr.
missing?
Doolittle.
Dr. Doolittle. He's one of my favorite rappers.
John.
But he's back at school, and one of the
Mhm.
other professors, oddly, or two on the nose, named Poindexter, he's locked
And you're like,
himself
"Is he
out.
trying just blocked myself out. I need your help.
Yeah, locked himself out, and he's wondering if there's some way to get a hold of somebody that has a key. And so
Mm-hmm.
Jack's like, oh, well, and maybe I'll try my key. But I don't think he had, like, by coincidence that their doors were keyed the same. I'm pretty sure he used
Dr.
some of his
Shade.
thief magic or skills.
Coming out of the dark side for your family jewels.
Guard the
that.
family jewels.
Yeah, so Poindexter.
Mhm.
I'm like, I keep hearing this term, Poindexter. Yeah.
But the other professor does share that there's been reports of some white thing flitting about in trees and
He's like,
going
"What?"
on rooftops.
Hmm.
And Jack has already been having feelings that something's coming for him.
He's like,
So I
I
think
know
maybe
it.
it's more than just
Something is coming.
yeah. Like the word flitting.
Flitting.
Underutilized
And then,
flitting.
so he gets like his friend's door back open. And he's like, "Oh, you should take your keys." Or not friend, his acquaintance. And
But I've literally done that with people before in my old job, like going and having to unlock
opening the door.
their apartments for them and stuff. And like,
And they forget it.
okay, let's find your keys and actually like make sure they have them before you leave.
Put them in your pocket.
Like,
what are you doing?
don't call me again too soon.
Yeah. So then somehow he makes it with Quentin?
Quillian?
Quillian?
Oh,
Quillian.
we're almost there. So we're now in chapter 8, and Jack is in a computer room doing computer things, ripping tractor-fed paper off and reading out what it has to say.
It's such a good
Because
chair. Oh, that sound.
it's the old-timey stuff, and maybe didn't have a display that he could look at it or save it easily
Yeah.
from, and so you got to
It
actually
folds
print
so
out everything.
nicely. It's accordion folding.
That stuff is such a pain
Oh,
though, and it's
I love
still
it.
like we don't even have the tractor-fed sides on the paper typically anymore, and the printers still do a better job of like feeding it and not jamming. Those things were such a pain.
Oh, true.
It was not the paper; it was like the printers at the time.
Yeah.
I still had to smash one a while back, but usually they work fairly
With a bat.
well. No, I didn't have to use a bat, but it was, a semi-office space type experience.
Mm-hmm. Lurking on the dark side. Something from the dark side that crossed over. I couldn't tell.
Oh, we'll get to it though. We'll find out what it was before we get too much further in the book. Brent.
Quillian.
Yeah. So
yeah.
he's in the computer room. The other, like Dr. Quillian from the university, who doesn't particularly like Jack, shows up and ends up just accusing him of being some, entity. Not sure they quite consider them persons or whatever from the dark side of the planet.
Being.
So ends up detaining him.
I'm gonna arrest you. Like, why did you say that? You called everyone. You could have just like hung out with him and then called them, and you wouldn't even know.
Just kept him busy, distracted, and then the cops would have shown up.
They had to say something. Like, I got you.
Yeah.
But of course, the shadows come to save the day. Or you start seeing the lamp in the shadow, and he's like,
he's seeing more what's going on.
Yeah, he pulled a gun on him, right?
Yeah, Quillian's got a gun, but
got a gun.
When you're part of criminal folklore, merely pulling a gun on you isn't that big a deal. But there's a part in here particularly enjoyed. He's in the room in the lab with Quillian, and he's like kind of seeing something's going on out there, and he sort of like switches gears and suddenly confesses. We find out he's not actually talking to Quillian.
I am
He's silly.
Jack of Shadows.
I am Jack of Shadows, he cried out, Lord of Shadowguard. I am Shadow Jack, the thief who walks in silence and in shadows. I was beheaded in Ingles and rose again from the dung pits of Glide. I drank the blood of a vampire and ate a stone. I am the breaker of the compact. I am he who forged a name in the red book of elves. I am the prisoner in the jewel. I duped the High Lord Dungeon, Lord of High Dungeon, pardon me, once, and I will return for vengeance upon him. I am the enemy of my enemies. Come take me, filth, if you love the Lord of Bats or despise me, for I have named myself Jack of Shadows. Sort of like
Ooh.
shocking. Quillian was kind of accusing him. Jack wasn't letting on, and then all of a sudden he's like, yeah. But he's really just egging on the abortion that's outside the window. So they crashes in and he can make his escape.
He just crashes in. It's like, come to get you. And his slimy, weird, substancey body.
Oh yeah, it's very
Like,
creepy. Loving the chat participation today. Thanks, guys.
The dark side immediately narrowed on him. That could return.
No, I forgot earlier. Jack had grabbed a bottle of acid.
Yeah, just
And
like
so
out of
after-
his suitcase.
after
He's
the-
planning that, I think.
Well, he snagged it from somewhere else
Yeah.
earlier, and then put it.
Thieved.
Yes, he thieved it. Very in character. And after the abortion jumped in and is attacking, he throws
Yeah.
he throws the acid on it and gets the hell out of there. Steals Quillian's raincoat because he's the thief. Jack
Yeah.
of Shadows. You just have to.
For real. Throw it on him and run.
So he has a
Through the shadows.
rainy drive, a rainy flight away from the scene. He's making his way towards
Oh, there's
Twilight.
like lightning and
Yeah,
through out the window.
very
I like
atmospheric.
that.
creepy. But at one point, it's written in there talking about he might switch cars again soon or later.
Yeah.
Like maybe he probably stole the one that he
Got this
has.
criminal
or
mentality.
He's gonna swap. But
Ugh.
the whole is just admirable. Like the rules don't apply to him.
Yeah, they blame
the
me
only-
for
the only
Quentin's
thing
death,
that-
and he's listening to the radio, and he's just like,
yeah.
oh, they blamed him for. He found out he died because the
Yeah.
abortion.
Yeah, he's listening to the radio, getting
Got
reports
him
on the
instead of-
manhunt
Yeah,
that's after him. But really, he operates according to the limits of his abilities, not the mores
mm-hmm.
of the society where he's at. Moves about both sides of the planet.
And then
It's
some, yeah,
relative.
he like somehow makes it across,
Yep,
and
back. He's at
it's just, like,
Twilight.
this
he kind of
mind warp again.
consults his whole his notes from off the computer,
Yeah.
and he decides now's the time. So you got to test out if he actually figured out what he thought he figured out.
Mm-hmm.
So he takes out that satellite that always bothered him.
Points at the brightness.
Yeah.
Ooh, yeah. And
So
pulling the mountains and the castle, is that part of it too? Okay.
so that's how he re-enters Darkseid. So right after like taking out
Reading my
that annoying
printouts.
non flickering star that wouldn't answer him previously.
Dang you, star.
Yeah. Then we jump. There's a little bit of a jump again. So he was on Darkseid, fleeing the Lord of Bats.
This is what was
Then
the
he's-
satellite thing? Oh, I think that was the
Yeah, the
was
satellite
that the
thing.
when they
it
were
talks about
debating that it
the-
was a star or a
He talks about it to Morning Star early on,
mm-hmm.
and like the last,
chapter.
the first half of the book, somewhere where he were.
But they didn't say whether it was like mechanical or it was a star.
The
But
more-
he describes it as a star.
Mornings. Jack thinks of it as a star that doesn't behave like the other ones, and the owner of it doesn't answer. It's like the other stars have entities attached to them.
Mm-hmm.
But there's this one that doesn't blink, moves over Twilight. Morningstar explains that it's a
It's
machine
satellite,
from
yeah.
Dayside that they put up there to monitor the edge. So
Some of these
it's a surveillance satellite of some sort.
satellites.
Yeah.
Wow.
And so he used his new powers that he figured out using the computers on Dayside combined with the magic of
Shadow.
the dark side.
Yeah.
And he brings down that satellite, probably pulling it like into the atmosphere, and then it just torches up, burns up, and it's gone. Putting his foot down.
Toast.
Yeah. So that's what the satellite thing was. We'll flip back and look at the verbiage. Where was I? Yeah. He rose to his feet with his fatigue forgotten. With his right foot, he traced a brief pattern in the dirt. Then he pointed a finger at the satellite and read the words that he had written upon the papers he held. For a moment, nothing happened. Then it stood still. Silent now, he continued to point. It grew brighter and began to increase in size. Then it flared like a shooting star and was gone. A new omen, he said, and then he smiled. Yeah.
To chapter 9
9.
in the
So it's going, there's
20th
another little bit of a
brightness.
jump. We are just at, he's at Twilight, the border between both sides, took out a satellite, and then we jump to, he's riding a freaking mountain. I think that's a pretty
He's
badass
riding
entry.
it. Oh, I thought he was like pulling it.
I think
Like
he's like
standing
traveling
before it
on
and
it.
pulling it. Oh, okay.
Maybe in that way, but he's going from far away and he's approaching the Lord of Bats castle
Try
to
that.
take him out.
Yeah.
So you're gonna go after some of those Russian ones or just Elon Musk, like Starlink satellites?
There's a lot of satellites out there
If you're on
now.
Starlink, don't pull it down before the end of the stream because you'll miss it. Yeah, so pretty badass entry. Like crashes into the castle. The Lord of Bats had turned a bunch of his bats, who maybe previously had been men, like back into soldiers. But because Jack now has the key of Kolinia, his magical power that he deciphered using the
Paper key.
computers.
I bet he like origami did it.
Okay.
I don't know.
A
That's what I
duck.
imagine.
Yeah, he's like crashes in. Immediately, all the soldiers are down. They're like asleep, except for Smage. The Lord of Bats have been trying to fight the incoming stuff, but Smage.
I was trying to remember who's Smage, and I remember you telling me from the beginning.
Yep.
Yeah, him and Quillian. What was it? Was ratting him out to the game maker.
At the Hell Games, yeah.
Yeah, at the Hell Games. Ratting him out.
Pointing the finger. It's all part of the trap from the Lord of Bats, and now he's getting his vengeance.
Lightsabers. See. I just want to get him.
What stuck out to you in this section?
Oh, it's like, so that crazy scene, he was like, oh, you're gonna cut off his head.
Oh, yeah, it's
because he gets crushed, and then he's like, you're gonna cut off your master's head. And he's like, no, never. And then he's like, no, I'm gonna make you do it. And
yeah,
so he does.
He puppets him.
Yeah.
And has him
do it.
Cut off the Lord of Bats' head and then bring Jack the head.
Yeah, that's vicious. He's just like
really.
No, you're doing this.
Vicious.
Yeah, he's just so angry.
And then, or at least temporarily, puts him to sleep. Mm-hmm. Evine shows up. The Lord of Bats' head like sent her off a little bit earlier.
Mm-hmm. Ruthless with him, yeah, for real.
Right. Elon owes me money. That's true, though.
He owes money. Yeah, so then he does that, and he's like, "Yeah, go to sleep," and then Even comes, and he's terrible to her too.
Yeah.
He's really awful.
Yeah. And
Like,
he shows
no,
her
I told you.
Quasar, who
I
was
was like, I don't
another one
need your
that turned
love.
him in at the Hell Games.
Yeah.
And he's stuck like in a dance that's
Oh
he's
yeah,
gonna
he's gonna
just do the Hell
repeat
dance until he
the
dies.
dance, and whatever he did to win the games, he's gonna do it over and over again, or until he dies. Yeah, and so he's like, "You're gonna." She's all pissed off. Of course, she tries to stab him, and she's not too good at the stabby stab. So, it didn't work.
Yeah.
And then he's like, basically, he's like, "I'm gonna rape you," and multiple times, and you're gonna love me at the end. And I'm kind of like, is that like Stockholm syndrome or something? Like, basically,
Maybe.
it's
with magic.
with magic.
Stockholm
Yeah, like, oh, this is really gross, man. You're just so terrible.
But before she does go to stab him, like,
he's like, "No, you're gonna love me."
Yeah,
eventually."
there's lots of back and forth.
Yeah.
And in one spot she says, "You have named yourself. You have become a thing."
Yeah.
Yeah, she really doesn't like him. But before, she wanted to marry him, maybe, or she was at least going to be compliant.
But then she was like, "My daddy told me that you were not a good guy, and you just make up lies. So I'm better off with King Bats, Lord of Bats."
Yeah, the Colonel kind of turned on him too.
Yeah.
And
So
it'll come back to get him, come back to bite him.
Yeah.
But he had explained to Aveen the plans
love, right?
that he's gonna like take over the whole dark side of the planet.
Yeah, and so the other thing that I was wondering about is he's like, okay, this is Shadow Guard.
Yeah.
But remember how he's all bragging how like Shadow Guard is so much, it's not this place, it's so much better than this place, so much more vast and larger. But that it was basically that was Shadow Guard.
Sometimes I think of it like maybe it's a metaphor, or maybe it's sort of a place that travels with him in the shadows around him, like everywhere he goes.
Wherever I want it to be.
Maybe I think it doesn't get that fine of a point on it.
Yeah.
So
I don't know. I found that interesting.
Brett has a little bit more charitable interpretation. Writing in the chat. Yeah, I thought he was going to at least try to earn her love. It maybe, but he's also just like
he just seemed like
power.
Yeah,
that works.
Like, I'm gonna rule the world now.
Yeah, I think it's the thing that actually put Aveen over the edge to stab him when she noticed that the Lord of Bat's head was under his cloak.
Oh,
that's when she's like,
just stab you.
So just pulling knives from everywhere.
All different kinds of knives.
different one from the other one.
Yeah, so chapter 10.
Make it to chapter 10.
After that, Stockholm Syndrome.
It's a little bit more
induction.
A little bit more explanation of him taking over the different realms on the dark side, including Dreadfire, killing the Baron. And then he goes to visit with his former friend or associate, as maybe he doesn't have friends, the Colonel who never died. And they just kind of visit for a while and seem sort of friendly, and then Jack kind of calls him on, yeah, you know how you wanted me to go steal that thing, and then I was going to get your daughter's hand in marriage.
And you didn't do that?
And you double-crossed me. Like, yeah, you're going to die, but I'm at least going to let you kill yourself.
Honorably. Kind of.
Which the Colonel is quite a bit, like, polite about it and kowtowing.
Very nice. Like, okay. You're all powerful now.
Yeah.
I guess I'll do that.
This is just more of Jack being a very cold bastard.
Yeah, he's just like, all right. He's like super powerful, so tells him how to do it, and then he's like, repeat after me now.
Gives them
It's like,
details.
oh gosh,
Yeah, a little
ouch.
creepy.
Yeah.
It was like slipping back into his professor. Like, oh,
Repeat after me now.
try this out.
Yeah. And if it doesn't work, then you gotta keep going with
Yeah.
it. Yeah.
The-
Just like
It's mentioned.
very detailed.
It's mentioned that he has the Lord of Bats skull as an ashtray.
Oh, I didn't
Yeah,
pick up that
yeah.
detail. Yeah.
And he's
And
running around, High Dungeon. He took that over as his place.
mm-hmm.
So I guess that was the next best place on Dark Side, next to Shadowguard.
Yeah, so he goes back to his place, and then lo and behold, little
He's ruling. He's ruling. He's doing a lot of
comes to
things.
see him.
He is writing, like doing academic work
Mm-hmm.
while he's ruling and taking over everything.
Mm-hmm.
Writing an
Those
assessment
people
of
like
Dark
him.
Side culture, which he's thinking about. Maybe he'll have published on Dayside.
Mm-hmm.
So getting very, even more and more full of himself.
And then little
Rosie comes to
see
visit. His servant Stab.
him.
great, a great name. And I don't believe there's ever elaborated on why this guy's name is Stab.
Stab.
But Rosalie comes to visit.
name.
Stab announces her.
And she's like, I was walking by, even you made her soul weep. I could see her weeping behind her, basically. Her soul's weeping.
Mm-hmm.
And just like, oh yeah. And he's just like, yeah. She deserved it. So terrible. And she's like, I found something. I have a gift for you. And he's like, please stay. You could stay here. It's so great. And yeah. And she's like, no, I'm not gonna do that. I have a gift for you, and that's kind of all I wanted to bring you. And then she brings him his soul that
Yeah.
he found in the heap.
Dumb pits of Goliath. So yeah, Chekhov's gun shows up.
Yeah.
This oddly mentioned earlier on when he's getting resurrected.
Mm-hmm.
That he has like an egg-shaped rock in his hand and he tosses it away. Well, showing back up again, it wasn't a superfluous thing. It comes back in the story. Like that is apparently like the physical manifestation of his soul, or what contains his soul as a dark sider. And they would kind of figure out like him casting it away is what's going to enable him to be resurrected again should he die again in the future.
Yeah.
But she leaves with him. He's kind of like, oh no, it's not my soul. She's like, yeah, it is, but he has a really strong emotional reaction to the whole thing.
Get away from me.
Yeah,
it's
and he's like throwing it and smashing it.
And then it starts speaking to him, right?
But yeah, it's like smoke mist thing comes out of it after it's broken, and
yeah, he
starts talking to him.
Yeah, and he's like, I want to be your comfort and your caution. Like, I want to be your soul. Let me be with you. And he's like, get away from me.
Yeah,
leave and banish.
He's arguing with Rosalie, like, or talking to his soul. Says, what the hell am I gonna do with the soul?
Worthless thing.
But the soul tells him like he has to consent to actually be reunited.
Mm-hmm.
He's like, oh, well then I'm not gonna consent. So Soul was a good dude. He was pretty patient.
Good soul.
But I realized that this is like their back and forth amusing me. Like, I think people writing passages where people are arguing with themselves or speaking to themselves, it just amuses me for some reason. And the reason that's came up when we were discussing Altered Carbon, because there were different things going on in in virtual, there was the torture of Miller
Oh
with his own
yeah,
self,
and
and
he
then
was
when
talking to himself.
Kovac was double sleeved, and that's like they have discussions like he's talking to himself, and I don't know why this appeals to me in some way, but we sort of get that now again, where you have the physical Jack and then Jack's soul who starts following him around and alternatively like off and on heckling him essentially.
He's like, don't banish me. Nobody's gonna want to
Yeah,
see a banished soul.
but I didn't really like all the stuff that Jack has done, and even though he's not
He's like, I
interested in
don't
all
care.
his soul, she came by was trying to push that on him. He's actually still really nice to Rosalie, and she's like, "You finally came to Shadowguard. Stay. I'm gonna take care of
Yeah.
you." And then she's like, "No, I'm gonna leave." Like,
He's like,
"Well, let me at least send you with an escort. I can send you there an
She's
easier
like, no,
way."
I'm
She's like, "No," and
good.
they're like, "Well, then let me send you with an escort." So he like really did
He
care
really
for
care for her.
her,
Yeah.
and but he just
And she's like, no, dude.
yeah.
Making people's souls weep and other people don't like you. Is that when they started calling him? She was like, "Oh, they calling you the Jack of Evil."
Jack of Evil.
Yeah, like
I don't
nobody
know.
likes you.
My nicknames doesn't bother me too much, so I don't think that's gonna bother Jack.
It's a different kind of.
But there's a
It's when you're choking them out.
I don't
Then they're
even
like, "Ah,
I
you're so
don't
evil."
think that's it. But the book describes four resurrections and four especially like times that all those big guys that he wanted revenge against came back from the dung pits and he sent them back. And since those returns seem to take years, like each one, it's like a roundabout way is describing a passage of a great amount of time as he's um, ruling. He's taken over the dark side and everything he's doing over there. And even the colonels come back, but they had to change. He had to change his name, and now he's the colonel who had never been slain by another.
Never been slain by
Yeah,
another.
naming conventions and all sorts of other little things, um, like suggest but don't ever fully flesh out kind of a rich oddness that must have existed on the dark side, the rich oddness to culture.
Mm.
So the way the colonel's named, but then the Baron has a totally different structure of the name. Lord of Bats is very different.
Mm-hmm.
So he's the Lord of Bats. The other one is like Baron of Dreckheim is actually a place. So it's
Mm-hmm.
there's like kind of no consistency. It's consistently inconsistent. They're all different.
So then he kind of
I'm
has
looking at
like I don't know. He's like going on a journey, like in chapter 11, or like walking or
oh
something like that.
let's
And then he
let's
runs
go
into the
over
soul, and the soul is like, "Well, I've been following you around, and you should talk to the Morning Star." That's where I was reading from.
not sure. Let's
In chapter 11, so it
let's
kind of
look
like,
at my notes have maybe left me. Oh, it's much shorter passage that I was noting than I realized. It's a little bit the closeout to the chapter.
mm-hmm.
Then the colonel, who had never been slain by another, quaffed it, and there was merriment. High on Panicus, a part of Panicus, Morningstar regarding the east, Aesol wandered the night, cursing. A fat dragon wheezed as he bore a sheep towards his distant den. A beast in twilight swamp dreamed of blood. Then we go to chapter 11.
Just a normal night in the night.
So there's still a shield that has to protect
Oh,
the dark side
yeah.
of the
So they're all
planet.
like, "No, we're not gonna help you."
Yeah, the
Oh,
powers that
yeah.
are
He's
written in
like
the
kind
Book
of
of
walking
El,
or something like that. Yeah. And then,
they're like, we don't like what you've done with the place. We're not going to take care of the shield anymore. And he's like, okay, fine, you're dead.
it's like, fine.
I'll take care of it myself.
Just forget you guys.
Yeah,
I'm gonna
it didn't
do
work
it.
out.
But the soul's like, you can't do that on your own.
Yeah, he's heckling him.
Yeah, like, how do
It's
you
more
think you can
more
do
fun back
that?
and
What do you
forth.
think? You need others to help you. And he's like, I'm gonna do it myself. He's like, well, at least talk to Morningstar. Maybe he can help you. He's your friend, right?
He tries to fix it.
Yeah,
He
my only
fails,
friend.
and so he ends up. Yeah, he's going to go consult Morningstar
Yeah.
to see what else can be done so that the whole side of the planet doesn't die.
He talks to Morningstar. Morningstar's tells him to journey.
I like the way that it's structured,
Okay.
though, because the same story told in different ways was not as interesting to read, but the way that it's taken care of here, I really appreciate it. So, he goes to meets with Morningstar. He's talking, and Morningstar says that like the solution, it will not be easy. And Jack says, I did not feel it would be. Tell me. Morningstar shifted his great bulk slightly, and then he told him. But that's it.
Yeah, he just
Jack
told him.
Jack replies, I don't know that I can do it. So
And you're like, what did
it
he
was
tell
it was said,
what?
but it's sort of like it was said off screen.
Yeah.
And then that allows us to enjoy
What's gonna happen?
the more the live telling of the action and the process that Jack goes through as it's happening, instead of actually like having a block of text. Morningstar says, oh, you must go do this and then this and then this, and then afterwards we
Like,
go to the story, and
go
then
on a
Jack and he
journey,
goes
maybe.
and he does this and he does this.
Yeah.
Would not have been as interesting, would not have, I would not consider it as well written. It's like the omission at this stage improves the writing and the reading.
Yeah. It's like when you see two
Like
people
that.
whispering, but you don't really hear
Yeah.
what they're saying.
And then something happens,
And you're like,
and then you can infer what was
"Oh,
said.
okay." Yeah.
I was appreciating that as writing skill, not just the story, but also the way that it's told. It's a small thing, like size wise, but it's a huge thing, and actually the enjoyment of the story.
Yeah. So then he walks
He
and
goes
walks
off.
and walks to the end of forever.
He
just
enters the
keeps
great
walking.
hole.
Yeah. Or
Giggity.
like a cave.
Giggity giggity.
Yeah.
But I really enjoy the overall journey. Like
It's kind of like just
Zelazny has a
things
thing
and
for
going.
describing journeys.
Yeah. It's very well written.
And it happens probably in a lot of his stories. There's a great number of journeys. Go if you're reading Chronicles of Amber, different ways people are traveling. Yeah, that's right, Brett.
So dirty.
We're gonna get to that really soon. But as a journey, there's the so what part of what Zelazny gets right with how he's describing the journeys is not over explaining.
Yeah, I like this.
So it gives it a pace. Yeah, there's this really creepy creature, this tentacle thing.
It reminds me so much of that Jack show that we're watching, where he's changing. He's almost like shape-shifting this creature.
Samurai Jack?
Yeah, Samurai Jack. And he's
he's combating a coup.
Yeah.
Down in the depths.
It really does seem like a coup.
It is sort of.
He's like shape-shifting, and he's like an octopus, and he's a frog, and he's like
again, the way that it's told is like, okay, it has tentacles. And then it says like this 3-foot face appeared. It's not, let's not just think of like the head of a creature, that I do anyway. It's like, but saying face, for some reason, just makes it more creepy to me.
Yeah.
And again, it's like some of the things that are not
And then
said.
he's like, "Tell me who you are," and he's like,
Oh, no, we're still talking about the tentacle creature, not the other thing. Yeah. So this is the tentacle. No, these are different things down in the weird, windy depths of the earth on his way
Yeah.
to go brain the man with the oil can.
Down.
So that thing's kind of coming out of a pool. Yeah. It says its bulk
Dark,
raised a wave that washed over Jack, but before it struck him, and the beast vanished into the depths. He saw the creature's backside, and it was not the coldness of the water that caused him to shudder. Doesn't say what it looked like. It's just like so horrible that it made something as powerful as Jack like shudder looking at it. But he continues fighting it. He has to combine magic using his sword, ends up boiling the shit out of the thing. And then he moves on. And eventually he does come across this other creature.
Yeah.
That you were talking about. That was a little more of like a shape-shifty guy.
He had a good he was just like this giant creature, right? That he eventually rode upon. And he's like, "Tell me your name."
Yeah.
And he's like, "No."
So
he's like, "Oh, okay, I guess."
moving.
Like, "Oh, you're the all-powerful."
He detected the slightest of movements to his left. He saw that in one of the normally still puddles of a tiny, dark creature covered with warty protuberances had hopped forth, and now sat staring at him, unblinking. But he talks to it, he recruits it, it turns into this giant inky thing that I kind of imagine is more like sort of like two-dimensional looking, but he's using it as a beast of burden to ride rapidly.
Like, give me a ride.
The rest of the way down.
I need a lift.
Yeah.
And he's like, and also you're gonna make sure nobody else is gonna harm me while I'm taking a ride.
Yeah, Brent has it very well stated here in the chat. Zelazny is good at making little dark mysteries, mysterious things that constantly happen around the characters on the journey, and just letting them pass by without much explanation.
Yeah.
He's artful in his particular ways.
So
chapter 12, we got 2 more.
He's riding the beast, and then he's found a white room.
He rides at the great machine.
Great machine. So it's like blinded light room.
Another big jump kind of in the setting. He's underground moving, and then all of a sudden bright lights, and he's moving through, crawling through a tunnel. Like, boom, he's at the great machine. There's just inexplicable cogs and levers and all sorts of stuff moving everywhere. Buckets moving oil.
He kind of climbs off the edge and then can see everything. Climbs off with the little ladder.
Yeah.
And then seeing people oil it, and then back where he was talking about, he does them so dirty.
He brains him. And he does it with with his knuckle. Like his first knuckle. Hits him in the temple.
He's just like, "Tell me about this machine." So he tells him everything.
Yeah.
And then he's like, "All right, thanks. Bam."
Yeah, as you said. As Brett pointed out, he tells him, like, "I think you're about to die." Bam.
Yeah.
And yeah, the mysteries. There's a really good explanation of who this old man is running things at the center of the earth, keeping it from turning.
And now he just offed him.
So he finds a little, like, tiny little gears behind glass, like the most important ones. He smashes it. And all hell breaks loose. He has a wild ride back to the surface. In the book, it doesn't take up nearly as much space.
Just like shaking and everything's moving, and it's like, oh wow, it's gonna fall. Something bad's gonna happen. What's gonna happen?
But he gets back to the surface, and he decides to go look up Rosalie. He's going to go to the sign of the burning pestle. where she was kind of intending to go and maybe find somebody else to pass on
Yeah.
her trade to.
I'm like, is he close by? Is that what
Yeah. No, I think it's just
he's
like one of
finding
the
a
only
soul
people whose
searching
opinion
in a way.
matters to him is
Yeah.
Rosalie.
And I wonder if it's because like the soul was kind of close by him at that time, so he's kind of having a little more feeling. But that's my theory.
Well, the
He's
soul
like, I'm gonna
like
find her.
tells him at some point. It's like, oh, you're feeling these things because I'm around.
Yeah, so I'm like, okay, so he must be feeling like I'm gonna go see Rosalie.
Yeah, and he finds out she's been dead for a while. Maybe
Hmm.
another one of those things with like the passage of time. He's lost track again.
Yeah.
So he realized
And
like
she's
she
kinda on the
probably
end of
couldn't
it.
have lived that long.
And they didn't seem to care about him,
They're
about
like,
her. I mean,
yeah,
they were just like, yeah, we threw her in the
She-
ocean.
Jack wants
She
finds
was
out that she
worthless.
died, and he wants to find out where she's buried so he can go pay respects. And
And he's
the
angry.
yeah, the head of the tavern, he says that she was worthless, and they just threw her in the ocean. So gotta torch the place.
Yeah.
That's
just
it.
torture. And Soul's like,
Yeah.
no, don't do that. And he's like, and just throw her in the ocean. And he's like,
Yeah.
the ocean's gonna swallow everything up soon.
Yeah, so Soul's pointing out like chaos is happening on the planet, and it didn't really matter if you torch that place because it's gonna get destroyed by the ocean anyway.
Yeah.
It's like, you made me feel
Yeah. Just in some way, I'm like, oh yeah.
a fun turn of phrase, like Jack almost gets taken down, sucked away by the waves, and he does lose his sword, and he observes, so the sea has robbed the thief. And kind of laughs at the situation.
Yeah. And he's like, shut up, Soul.
Yeah,
I was telling the Soul to shut up.
it really seems like the Soul's getting more aggressive over
Yeah,
time,
he's
but it's
very,
been
like,
many years since
brave.
it first was
Yeah.
brought back by Rosalie. And it's like more this definitely the stage where the Soul is kind of like heckling it. Just pestering him about stuff.
I've been watching you, BIU. Chapter 13.
Chapter 13. The last chapter. Try to not digest it too
His
fast.
Soul's like, asks him, like, can you feel me more? Because I've been around you more. And you feel bad, right? Don't you feel bad about these things? And then storming, it's like crazy, wild. Everything's kind of shaking and storming. And then Even comes. And he's like, don't you feel bad for Even? And he's like, yeah, I guess I kind of do. And then Even comes and she's all scared from the storms. And he's like, I know she's going to come. And he actually apologizes to her. He's like, I'm sorry. Just remember that I'm sorry. That's kind of like just a brief apology. But she
She's still
doesn't
so
know.
like
She's,
befuddled. She doesn't know why.
she's magicked and other
Yes.
things. Yeah. So he's like, yeah. Anyways, I said that. So, and then somehow he loses the key.
Well, the
I don't know
machine's
how
been
that happened.
destroyed at the center of the earth. Things are turning again, and so the magic's starting not to work.
Oh, okay.
Right? Because the
So
magic didn't really work
it's like,
on day side.
it's not
You had
really
to be on the
doing
dark side.
anything.
The planet's turning again.
And he kind of
So
noticed the change. He's like, oh,
yeah, he's trying to shield Shadow Guard or High Dungeon from the earthquakes, the lightning, and all
spells
that
are
stuff.
not
But
really
it
working.
seemed like the magic is starting to flip.
And then as the magic starts slipping, then Even is starting to realize all her stuff is coming off. And she's remembering what a jerk he is. How terrible and awful he is. Yeah. And that he's really, really terrible. And so she tries to stab him again.
Yeah, he's
She's like,
trying not to hurt
"Oh, I
her.
just want to stab you so badly.
And so he keeps
Let me
dodging.
kill you."
And then he dodges, and she falls over a railing and dies.
Ugh.
Just like, boom, boom, we're dead.
So
Sad. She's sort of like free
finally,
and all that. Yeah.
but I don't know. She
Pretty
was
rough.
pretty. I could take a heal from that. I bet good ending for her.
Still like enjoying the build up by talking about what's coming for Jack.
Her death was abrupt. Yes.
Through the
It's like,
dust,
oh,
the noise, the chill,
dang.
it followed the trail. The flaring lights, the trembling land, the stalking storm meant nothing to it, for it had never known fear. It was glided down hills like a ghost and slithered among rocks like a reptile. It leapt through chasms, dodged falling stones, and was singed once by lightning. It was a blob of protoplasm on a stick. It was a scarred hulk, and there was no real reason why it should be living and moving about, but perhaps it did not truly live, at least not as other creatures, even dark side creatures, lived. It had no name, only an appellation. Its mentality presumably was not great. It was a bundle of instincts and reflexes, some of them innate. It was lacking in emotions save for one. It was incredibly strong and capable of enduring extreme privation, great amounts of pain, and excessive bodily damage. It spoke no language, and all creatures it encountered fled from it. Ooh. Abortion attacks.
Shaking.
It gets
yeah,
there.
the castle's shaking now, and he's trying to run.
Yeah, the abortion still is
He's
like
grounded relief.
single-minded hatred for Jack and wants to kill it. It's started on dark side, followed him to the day side, followed him back to the dark side.
And then he's battling it, and then he sees some shadow, and he's like, I think I can reach, just barely. And then he makes it into the shadow, and that lovely
He just makes it into the shadow. Sort of seems to like suck him and the abortion in, and then Jack is the only one that makes it
He
back out.
merges it. So you're like, oh, well, I guess that worked. Whatever you did in the shadows.
Yeah, he's back talking. His shadow's there talking to him.
Mm-hmm.
So he thought it was gone. Thought it was over with because he just disappeared. Apparently, the
And then
soul couldn't see him when he was in.
yeah,
the
so I was
shadows.
like, oh no, where'd you go? And then he's like, all right, I'm at the end of myself. Come on, soul.
He's out of cigarettes.
I'm
He's
finally. Oh
like,
yeah.
fuck.
I'm out of cigarettes.
My last
I need
cigarettes
my
are
soul.
destroyed. Fine, I guess I'll
I
die.
guess.
You can join me again, soul. There's nothing to live for.
They're crushed.
That's
pretty sad.
the
addiction made him want his soul back.
It was the last straw.
The last straw.
So
Last
it gives consent to the
cigarette.
soul to be rejoined, and then the soul just disappears from his perception. There's no trumpets,
can't
no
see
fanfare,
him.
and
Yeah.
he's just thinking like, geez, all this time, and now you're just gonna ignore me, you're not gonna talk to me. It's just
And then
funny.
he's
He
like,
doesn't really perceive what happened.
can see the sun rising.
Yeah.
And
Well,
he's-
the sun rising, what was created the shadow that allowed him to defeat the abortion,
Mhm.
but it's coming up more.
and
But
it's
the tower is coming apart.
beautiful,
The
and he's
castle's
like
just.
trying to see everything. Yeah.
He's kind of
and he's
enjoying
like-
the end of the world.
Oh wow! I must have my soul with me because I actually like this.
So it seems like he should be smoking a cigarette though, as he's watching. The end of the world is only coming
He's
down.
just soul in it.
So probably about to die. Castle's coming apart. The tower is coming apart. It's falling against the rail, falling over rail. But he heard a mighty rushing as of the wind, as the balustrade snapped and its rail slipped forward. For a moment, it was an intermittent thing, similar to the flapping sound of a garment hung out to dry. As he was cast over the edge, he was able to turn and look upward. Falling, He saw a dark figure in the sky that grew even as his eyes passed over it. Of course, he thought, he has finally looked upon the sunrise and been freed. Wings folded, his great horned countenance, impassive morning star dropped like a black meteor. As he drew near, he extended his arms full length and opened his massive hands. Jack wondered whether he would arrive in time.
And you're like, cliffhanger.
That's it. That's how it ends.
No. Is he gonna get it? Or is he just, I don't know. Do you feel like maybe you would be happy that Jack is just off the planet?
I don't know. Like, this is...
Or you're like, oh, maybe he's gonna redeem his life with
so this
his soul.
fantasy world, this universe in Jack of Shadows. I feel like wish that there was more to it, and we got to experience more. But also, just kind of the story arc of Jack, and then how it ends. I'd like the cliffhanger at the end. Like, does he live? Does he die? Did he deserve to survive? And
would I be happy if he survived, or would I be like, oh,
yeah,
okay,
what's it gonna go do from
maybe
there?
he's gonna like
He could go
plant a forest
skulk about,
somewhere.
go be a professor somewhere again, or start a motorcycle gang. I don't know.
Yeah, or he's just gonna write books and then kick it.
Yeah, so maybe there wouldn't be much of a story left, or it would just be too different from the rest of it that we would really enjoy it anyway.
Definitely be getting some cigarettes.
So I think there's a small part of me that's tempted to like, oh, just write some Jack of Shadows fan fiction.
I know, just like I want to see.
But
what
then I'm also kind of
happened.
glad that it like cut off and ended the way that it did.
I kind of want him to like, I don't know.
Yeah.
Be
And
alive in a forest somewhere in some other.
Zelazny lived like
comes
another
on.
quarter century, but as far as I know, he'd never like wrote or didn't publish any more Jack of Shadows stories.
Ooh, sad.
So,
So
he probably
fanfiction
felt
is-
like he was sufficiently done with it. But that's Jack of Shadows. Again, it was one of my favorite standalone novels of Zelazny. I've
Yeah.
read a ton of his writings, like my favorite author easily. And we will definitely be going over more of his books, including the next one that we're going to do. We're going to read
What is
Bring Me the
it?
Head of Prince Charming. It's by Roger Zelazny and Robert Sheckley. So it has a little bit different flavor. It's a lot of fun. Whoop. If we can get this
there we
on
go.
screen very well. I'll get a scan of it and we'll put up notices.
There you go.
So we will be working through
Ooh.
this in November. And we're trying to get a little bit ahead of our planning. December, we're going to be reading Christopher Moore.
It's
He's very
funny.
He's a fun author, contemporary, wacky kind of fantasy reimaginings of other stories. So this is going to be The Stupidest Angel by Christopher Moore. This will be our December.
Yay, when you haven't read.
Yeah. As the tagline reads, a heartwarming tale of Christmas terror. It does include some recurring characters from Christopher Moore's other books, because it's a thing that he does, kind of has these tie-ins as things go.
I haven't read this one.
It's there's a trilogy. This is another trilogy. It's gonna be fun. You're gonna really like that one. Yeah.
To read it.
And we did read Stupidest Angel together before, but I know you're looking forward to going through it again. It's fun. And then some point, I think I just need to introduce you to some other Christopher Moore. Yeah, this is a fun one. I think we did not immediately find it available on audiobook. So if that's how you're going through these, it might be a little bit more challenging, but it's not that long of a book. And it's like 300 something pages, and we're going to take a whole month to go through it. It's a lot of fun. And then following that again, December, we're going to do Stupidest Angel by Christopher Moore. It's a wonderful Christmas tale with zombies. I think you really enjoy
Makes
that.
you actually like Christmas. Yeah.
Yeah. So,
In a
and
weird way.
we enjoy the engagement in the chat. If anybody didn't get to comment in the chat, you can
Yeah, thank
definitely comment
you.
down below.
Mm-hmm.
Add anything that we missed or that you enjoyed about the book.
Mm-hmm.
And I will get some notices out as reminders to anybody not listening right now of the books that are coming out. We'll do the first section of Bring Me the Head of Prince Charming a week from today. Have a good